Okay, so we're going to graph y equals log base 3 of x. And this is the inverse to an exponential function that has a base 3. Because this is the inverse of an exponential function, you know that inverse functions, they switch x and y values. So we are going to begin with -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, but we're not going to place them in the x column. We're going to place it in the y column. So -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. We're also going to recognize that this is the same thing as writing 3 to the y power equals x. So notice that that is an exponential function with a base 3, but because it's the inverse, the y is in the exponent and it equals x. And so because of this, I'm going to now evaluate exponential function of base 3, but the -2, -1, 0, 1, 2 are the y values. And so now I'm going to create the x value. So I'm doing this backwards. So this would be 1/9, 1/3, 1, 3, 9. So these are all powers of 3. 3 to the -2 power is 1/9. 3 to the -1 power is 1/3, and so on. And so that's the table that goes with this function, and I'm going to graph it. So I'm going to label my x-axis. I'm going to count by ones, but I'm not going to write them all to save space. And I'm going to do this in both directions of x. I have to keep the same scale along x. And I pick the same scale for y. So there it is. And then I'm going to plot these points. Now, I don't need a calculator. I know that 1/9 is a number very, very close to 0. So if I want a number x that is very, very close to 0, then it's going to be very close to the y-axis, but not touching it or crossing over it. So 1/9 -2 would be somewhere here. 1/3 -1, so it's 1/3 of the way. It's very close to the one I just did, but that's about there. And then our x-intercept is 1, 0, and then 3, 1, and then 9, 2. And logarithmic functions, they have vertical asymptotes, and what changes them is moving the graph left and right. This graph did not shift left or right, so our vertical asymptote is the y-axis, which is x equals 0. And so now we're going to create the graph, getting very, very close to the y-axis, but never actually crossing over it. And it's hard to represent, but do your best that you can. And then you go across to the other points. So if it looks like it's getting too close, then erase it and redraw it. Something like that. And that is the graph of y equals log base 3 of x. And the only thing left to do is to find the domain and the range. So the range of these functions is all real numbers, and the domain is based on where the vertical asymptote is. And since we said that was the y-axis, which is x equals 0, then x has to be greater than 0. And that is it.